Hello, and welcome to our panel, Ritual and Reenactment as a Means of Understanding the Colonial Legacy of Modern Latin America. In 2017, I received a curriculum development grant from Notre Dame's Global Religion Research Institute to develop a new course, Ritual and Reenactment in Modern Latin America, which explores the historical roots of contemporary religious ritual and reenactment in various Latin American countries. This presentation briefly outlines the pedagogical framework of the course, assignments, and various rituals and reenactments discussed in class. Then one of the undergraduates in the course, Aaron Ramos, will discuss the indigenous roots of Easter traditions in the Tzotzil Maya community of Santiago Atitlan in Guatemala. Incorporating voices from the community alongside historical and anthropological scholarship, Ramos considers how the Tzotzil Maya have interacted with the religion of their conquerors, concluding that the veneration of the indigenous image of Maximon together with the crucified Christ is not considered a break from their past, but rather a continuum of spiritual belief. The inspiration for my course dates to the 2007 to 2008 academic year, when, funded by Fulbright, I moved to the small town of San Pedro Cholula in the Mexican state of Puebla to conduct my dissertation research. Cholula's vibrant religious culture enveloped me almost immediately. While waiting for the bus each morning to visit archives in nearby Puebla de Los Angeles, I would hear the pop, pop, pop of cohetes or firecrackers indicating yet another religious festival. My Mexican roommates, who live there from outside of Puebla State, dismissed the Choluteca as ceremoniáticos, that is, ceremony lovers. But I knew that the answer had to be more complex, for Cholula, which self-identifies as a sacred city, has survived 3 violent conquests and the imposition of 3 new religions. It boasts the largest pyramid in the world by mass. It's an active place that's been an active place of worship for 2,500 years and is now topped by a 16th century chapel dedicated to Our Lady of the Remedies, a virgin introduced by the conquistador Hernando Cortés. And so I began participating in Cholula's religious life, sitting in the pews of various neighborhood churches during ceremonies honoring the Virgin Mary or the angels and walking alongside locals as they sang and held aloft their patron saints in procession. As a trained historian specializing in the Christianization of native peoples in 16th century Mexico, I came to realize that Cholula's contemporary ritual had roots in the colonial period, during which the clash of Christian and indigenous practices produced a very particular Mexican Catholicism. I was especially struck while attending the annual procession of the lanterns in honor of Our Lady of the Remedies. Led by the local Franciscans, townspeople would balance platforms with their patron saints as they sang, following an ancient processional route along the Mesoamerican milpas, or agricultural fields that had been continuously cultivated for over 3,000 years. Walking alongside the indigenous Christian faithful through the rain and mud, I wondered if they realized that they were mimicking their indigenous ancestors, who, led by the priest of Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent, had walked these very same paths, cradling their divine images. Did they not see the irony of holding aloft Santiago Matamoros, St. James the Moor Slayer, the patron saint of Spain, renamed Santiago Mata Indios, or St. James the Indian Slayer, in the New World? A few months later, I attended the ritual of Quetzalcoatl, a reenactment of an ancient Mesoamerican rite written by research professors at a nearby university and performed in Nahuatl, or Aztec, at Cholula's ancient pyramid by the university's folk dance troupe. Again, I wonder for whose benefit these indigenous Christian rituals and ancient reenactments were designed: Franciscan friars, indigenous Christians, or foreign observers. Do these ceremonies originate with the local populace and thus serve to locate their faith in a global context? Are these spiritual practices empowering or oppressing? Do ritual and reenactment have a similar function? In what ways does the colonial project inform contemporary religious practice and ritual reenactment, which is often written by and directed towards others? Inspired by my 2016 CFH plenary talk that took listeners along the contemporary procession of the lanterns in Mexico while highlighting its colonial legacy, I re-envisioned my existing modern Latin American history course through the lens of ritual and reenactment. Tying course material to the colonial legacy, which is my specialty, students and I examined how local indigenous cultures have survived, adapted, or been commodified to appeal to tourists. The course examined the role of ritual in locating indigenous Christian faith in a global context and considered who benefited from reenactment: scholars obsessed with the past, native peoples proud of their past, or tourism officials capitalizing on the past. These are just some of the questions my students and I explored in ritual and reenactment in modern Latin America. Assignments included a country watch, whereby students became responsible for monitoring and sharing news coming out of their countries, as well as identifying local rituals and reenactments. A fieldwork presentation where they discussed their research into the rituals or reenactments they discovered, and a final research paper analyzing either an Indigenous Christian ritual, a pre-Hispanic reenactment, or both. There were also more traditional expectations like reading and analyzing a modern Latin American novel and taking a midterm. I provided video links to rituals and reenactments in the countries we discussed so that students would become adept at detecting and analyzing the colonial legacy in modern ritual and reenactment in Latin America. I had several outstanding papers, and one of the students who produced excellent work, Aaron Ramos, a Spanish major and history minor, is here with me today. I am honored to introduce him to you in his first appearance at an academic conference, sharing his research, Mayan Folk Catholicism, Semana Santa in Santiago Atitlan, Guatemala. Aaron.